Captain Jake Morrison walked across the bridge of the USS Defiance and tried not to step on the loose wire that hung from the ceiling. The wire sparked every few minutes, sending small flashes of blue light across the metal floor. Behind him, a control panel made strange beeping sounds that nobody could explain. The panel had been making those sounds for 2 months now, but it still worked fine. The ship looked terrible. Anyone who saw it would think humans had built it from garbage they'd found floating in space. Rust covered most of the outer hull, or at least it looked like rust. Different colored metal plates covered holes in the walls. Some plates were silver, others were dark green, and a few were bright orange. Pipes ran along the ceiling in no clear pattern. Half the lights in the hallway did not work. The ones that did work flickered on and off. Jake stopped at the main window and looked out at space. Earth hung in the distance like a blue marble. Between Earth and his ship, the Zephrian Empire had parked their fleet. 12 massive ships, floated in perfect lines. Each ship was over 1 kilometer long and painted bright silver. They looked like giant swords hanging in the darkness. Clean lines, smooth surfaces, and no visible weapons, because the weapons were hidden inside the pretty hulls. Chief Engineer Lisa Bennett walked up behind Jake. Her uniform had oil stains on it, and her hands were dirty from working on the engines. She always looked like she had been crawling through the ship's guts, which she usually had been. "Captain, the Empire sent another message," Lisa said. "Want to hear it?" Jake nodded. Lisa pressed a button on her handheld device. Filled the bridge. "This is Admiral Vexstar of the Zephrian Empire. Humans of Earth, you have 1 hour to surrender. We know you sent your best ship to face us. You see your pathetic vessel floating before our fleet. It looks like metal garbage held together with hope and foolishness. You almost feel sorry for. You," the message continued. "Your ship is an insult to proper engineering. Our youngest students could build something better. We will destroy your scrap pile quickly so you do not suffer long. Then we will take your planet and make it useful. You have 1 hour." Jake turned off the device. Around the bridge, his crew kept working. Nobody looked worried. Communications. Officer Danny Walsh typed on his computer without looking up. Navigator Amy Cole checked star charts like she was planning a trip to the store. Weapons Officer Tony Rodriguez cleaned his fingernails with a small knife and hummed a tune. "They seem confident," Lisa said. "They should be," Jake replied. "At their ships? Look at ours. Any smart person would bet on them?" Lisa smiled. "Good thing we are not smart people." Jake walked over to the captain's chair. The chair was old, and the leather had cracks in it. One of the armrests was held on with tape. He sat down and looked around at his crew. 37 people in total. The Empire's smallest ship carried 3,000 soldiers. Dr. Helen Chang looked up from her science station. Her screen showed readings that made no sense to anyone except her. Numbers jumped up and down. Lines drew crazy patterns. Warning lights blinked in different colors. "Helen, how are we looking?" Jake asked. "Terrible," Helen said with a straight face. "Our energy readings are all over the place. Our hull integrity looks like a joke. Our weapons appear to be held together with wire and wishes. Any enemy scan will show we are barely functional." "Perfect," Jake said. Tony Rodriguez stopped humming and looked at the captain. "Jake, want to know what the Empire boys are saying on their private channels?" "Danny is listening to their private talks?" Jake asked. "Danny is very good at his job." Tony said, "Tell him what they said, Danny." Danny turned around in his chair. "The Empire commanders are laughing. They think this is funny. One officer said he could destroy us with a transport ship. Another said we look like we were built by children using broken toys." "What else?" Jake asked. "They're arguing about who gets to shoot us," Danny continued. "Nobody wants the job because it would be too easy. They think it would be boring." Amy Cole looked up from her charts. "Captain, they are sending one escort ship toward us. Just one. The rest of their fleet is staying back." Jake nodded. "Lisa, are we ready?" Lisa wiped her dirty hands on a rag. "Captain, we have been ready for 3 years. Every piece of junk on this ship was chosen for a reason. Every broken-looking part does exactly what we need it to do. Every wire that looks wrong is in the right place. She pointed at the sparking wire above their heads. That wire is not broken. It is supposed to spark. The sparks tell me our main power system is running perfectly. Jake stood up and walked to the weapons station. Tony, show me what we really have. Tony pressed several buttons. His screen changed from simple readouts to complex displays. Captain, our missiles look old and slow. The Empire thinks they are basic explosives. They are wrong. Our energy weapons look weak and poorly aimed. The Empire thinks they cannot penetrate good shields. They are wrong about that too. How wrong? Jake asked. Very wrong, Tony said with a grin. Jake returned to his chair. Through the main window, he could see the Empire escort ship moving toward them. It was still far away, but getting closer. The ship was beautiful in a cold way. Perfect lines, bright silver hull, and weapons that could destroy a city. Helen, remind me what we are really fighting, Jake said. Helen turned around. An empire. That has conquered 47 different species. They have never lost a war. Their technology is hundreds of years ahead of most civilizations. Their ships are faster, stronger, and better armed than anything in this part of the galaxy. And they think we are idiots, Jake added. They think we are idiots with broken ships and no real weapons, Helen agreed. Lisa walked over to the main. Power controls. Captain, the escort ship will be in weapons range in 10 minutes. Should I start bringing our real systems online? Jake looked out at the approaching enemy ship. Soon, the Empire would learn what humans could do with scrap metal, determination, and 3 years of very careful planning. Not yet, Jake said. Let them get closer. Let them think they know what they are dealing with. When they realize the truth, it will be too late. The USS Defiance continued to drift through space, looking like floating garbage while hiding the most dangerous secret humanity had ever built. Commander Steve Parker stood in the tactical room of the Imperial flagship and stared at the data on his screen. The human ship looked even worse up close than it did from far away. His sensors showed a vessel that should not be able to fly, much less fight. Admiral Vextar wants my full report, Steve told his assistant. What do we know about this human garbage pile? Lieutenant Kekstra pulled up more data. Spur, the ship reads as barely functional. Energy output is weak and unstable. Hull integrity is poor. Count only 37 life signs aboard. Their weapons appear to be old projectile systems and basic energy cannons. Steve nodded and made notes. What about their military records? Humans have no space combat experience against advanced civilizations, Kekstra replied. They fight among themselves with primitive weapons. Their largest wars involve chemical explosives and metal projectiles. They have never faced energy shields or plasma weapons. And their ship construction, basic metal welding, and simple electronics? This vessel appears to be assembled from various scrapped ships. Our engineers laugh when they see the design. No logic, no efficiency, no proper planning. Steve finished his report and walked to the bridge. Admiral Vextar stood at the center of the command area. The admiral was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and cold black eyes. He wore a uniform that had never seen dirt or damage. Commander Parker, tell me about our opposition, the admiral said. Sir, the human vessel poses no threat to our fleet, Steve began. It appears to be their best attempt at a warship, but it would barely qualify as a cargo transport in our empire. Weapons are weak, shields are nearly non-existent, and the crew is tiny. Admiral Vextar looked out at the human ship through the main window. It offends me that they sent such trash to face us. Do they think we are fools? Sir, I believe they sent their best, Steve said. This may be the limit of human engineering. The admiral turned to his weapons officer. Commander Yexenel, select one escort ship to destroy the human vessel. Use the Razor's Edge. Captain Dexamore can handle this simple task. Sir, should we offer them another chance to surrender? Commander Yexenel asked. No, they have insulted us by bringing that floating scrap pile into our presence. Destroy it quickly, and then we will take their planet. Meanwhile, aboard the USS Defiance, the crew continued their preparations. Jake Morrison walked through the ship's corridors and stopped to talk with different crew members. Everyone was calm and focused. He found mechanic Rick Bailey in the engine room. Rick was adjusting something inside a large machine that looked like it had been hit by explosions several times. Burn marks covered the metal surface, and several panels hung open. "Rick, how are the engines?" Jake asked. "Running perfect, Captain," Rick replied. "The Empire sensors think our engines are barely working. Truth is, they are running at about 10% power right now. When we need full power, these babies will surprise everyone." Jake nodded and continued walking. He found Dr. Helen Chang in her lab. Helen was working with equipment that looked like it belonged in a junk shop. Wires ran everywhere, screens flickered, and strange devices hummed and beeped. "Helen, what do the Empire scans tell them about us?" Jake asked. "Everything we want them to know," Helen said. "Our fake energy signatures are working perfectly. They think our power core is weak and unstable. They think our computers are simple and slow. They think our sensors can barely see past our own nose." "And the truth?" Helen smiled. "Captain, our computers are running calculations their best systems cannot handle.
Ow.
Our sensors can count the rivets on their hull from here. Our power core could light up a small city." Jake continued his walk and found Communications Officer Danny Walsh in the radio room. Danny wore headphones and was typing notes while listening to Empire communications. "Danny, what are they saying now?" Jake asked. "Captain, they picked the Razor's Edge to come kill us," Danny said. "My Captain Deximer is not happy about getting such an easy job. He wanted to fight something that would make him look good to his commanders." "What else?" "Empire officers are making bets about how fast we will be destroyed. Most think it will take less than 1 minute. Some think we will surrender before the first shot." Jake returned to the bridge where Lisa Bennett was making final checks on her systems. Her screen showed readings that looked chaotic and random, but Jake knew Lisa understood every number. "Lisa, the Empire ship is almost here," Jake said. "Are we ready to show them what human engineering really looks like?" "Captain, we have been ready since the day we launched," Lisa said. "Every system on this ship has been tested and retested. Every backup has a backup. Every weapon has been calibrated for maximum effect." Amy Cole looked up from her navigation. "Station, Captain. The Razor's Edge will be in weapons range in 3 minutes. They are not even raising full shields." Tony Rodriguez laughed from his weapons station. "They think this will be target practice. They're going to learn something today." Jake sat down in his captain's chair and watched the Empire ship approach. The Razor's Edge was beautiful and deadly. Its silver hull reflected starlight like a mirror. Weapon ports were hidden, but Jake knew they were there. The ship was 3 times larger than the Defiance and carried enough firepower to destroy a space station. "Captain," Danny said, "I am picking up a transmission from the Razor's Edge. Captain Deximer is talking to his crew." "Put it on speaker," Jake said. A proud voice filled the bridge. "Crew of the Razor's Edge, we have been given the simple task of destroying human garbage. This will take only moments. Do not waste expensive ammunition on this scrap pile. Use basic weapons only. We want to save our good weapons for real enemies." The crew of the Defiance looked at each other. Several people tried not to laugh. "Jake," Tony said, "they are not even going to use their best weapons on us." "Good," Jake replied. "Helen, start bringing our real systems online. Lisa, prepare to drop our fake energy signatures. Amy, plot our attack course. Danny, record everything. The folks back home will want to see this." Jake looked out at the approaching Empire ship. In 2 minutes, Captain Deximer would learn that humans do not build scrap piles. They build traps. Captain Deximer stood on the bridge of the Razor's Edge and looked at the human ship through his main screen. The vessel looked even more pathetic up close. Metal plates of different colors covered the hull like a bad repair job. Wires hung from openings in the side. Parts of the ship actually looked like they were held together with some kind of tape. "Weapons Officer Texavel, prepare basic energy cannons," Deximer ordered. "Do not waste our plasma torpedoes on this garbage. Few simple shots should be enough, sir." "Should we raise full shields?" Texavel asked. "Half shields only," Deximer replied. "This human junk cannot penetrate our armor even without shields. We do not want to look like cowards. afraid of scrap metal. On the Imperial flagship, Admiral Vexstar watched the approaching battle. Commander Steve Parker stood beside him with other officers. They all expected this to be over in seconds. Admiral. Captain Deximer reports he is ready to fire, Commander Yexenol said. Tell him to make it quick, the Admiral replied. I grow tired of looking at that insult to engineering. Aboard the USS Defiance, Captain Jake Morrison watched the Empire ship move into position. The Razor's Edge was now close enough to see. Clearly, its weapons ports began to open, revealing energy cannons that glowed with blue light. Lisa, drop our fake signatures, Jake ordered. Show them what we really are. Chief Engineer Lisa Bennett pressed several buttons on her control panel. Throughout the ship, hidden systems came online. The chaotic energy readings that had fooled. Empire's sensors suddenly changed. The ship's true power signature appeared for just a moment before Lisa activated something else. Stealth systems active, Lisa announced. On the Razor's Edge. Weapons Officer Texavel stared at his screen in confusion. Captain, the human ship just disappeared from our sensors. What do you mean disappeared? Deximer demanded. Sir, one moment. It was there. The next moment our sensors show empty space. Visual contact is also lost. Deximer looked out the main window. The human ship was gone. Empty space stretched in front of them where the scrap pile had been floating just seconds before. How does a ship that big just vanish? Deximer asked. On the Imperial flagship, alarms began to sound. Commander Steve Parker looked at his tactical displays and saw something impossible. The human vessel had completely disappeared from all there. Sensors, Admiral. We have lost contact with the human ship, Steve reported. What kind of stealth technology do they have? Admiral Vexstar asked. Sir, our records show humans have no stealth capability, Steve replied. They should not be able to hide from our sensors. Meanwhile, the invisible USS Defiance moved through space like a ghost. The ship's true technology was finally showing itself. The rusty hull plates were actually advanced metamaterials that bent light and sensor waves around the ship. The random-looking antenna array was a sophisticated stealth system that had taken human scientists years to develop. Amy, bring us around behind them, Jake ordered. Navigator Amy Cole guided the invisible ship in a wide circle around the Razor's Edge. The Empire vessel was turning in slow circles. Seemed to have vanished completely. Tony, target their engine systems. Jake said Weapons Officer Tony Rodriguez aimed weapons that looked nothing like what the Empire had seen before. The rusty missile tubes were actually advanced launch systems, old-looking energy cannons. Were quantum phase weapons that could punch through any known shield technology. Missiles ready, Captain, Tony said. These are not the simple explosives they think we have. What are they? Jake asked. Smart munitions with quantum phase capability, Tony explained. They will pass right through their shields like the shields are not even there. Each missile carries enough punch to cripple a ship that size. Jake looked at the Empire vessel on his screen. Captain Deximer and his crew were still searching for them, completely unaware that death was floating right behind them. Fire, Jake. Ordered. Tony pressed the launch button. 3 missiles left the Defiance, but these were not ordinary weapons. As they flew toward the Razor's Edge, they shifted into a quantum phase that allowed them to pass through solid matter. The Empire's shields, designed to stop normal weapons, could not even detect them. The first missile hit the Razor's Edge engine core. The explosion tore through the back half of the ship. The second missile destroyed the main power systems. Third missile hit the weapons bay and set off a chain reaction that lit up space like a small sun. Captain. Deximer had time to scream one word into his communicator before his ship exploded. Impossible. On the Imperial flagship, Admiral Vexstar watched his escort ship turn into a ball of fire and debris. The explosion was so bright it hurt to look at directly. Where the Razor's Edge had been, only burning wreckage remained. How? The Admiral whispered. Commander Steve Parker stared at his instruments. Sir, the explosion came from inside their shields. Somehow the humans fired weapons that passed through our defensive systems. That is not possible, Admiral Vexstar said. Our shields stop everything. Sir, apparently they do not stop human weapons. Suddenly, the USS Defiance appeared again. The ship materialized out of empty space like it had been there all along. It looked exactly the same as before, rusty, patched, and held together with hope. But now everyone knew that appearances could lie. Admiral Communications Officer Nex Cole said, "We are receiving a transmission from the human vessel." "Put it on screen," the Admiral ordered. Captain Jake Morrison appeared on the main display. He sat in his cracked leather chair surrounded by flickering lights and sparking wires. Behind him, his crew worked at stations that looked like they had been built from spare parts. "Admiral Vexstar," Jake said calmly, "you wanted to see what our scrap ship could do. Now you know. We can make your ships disappear just like we disappeared. We can fire weapons your shields cannot stop. We can appear and vanish as we choose." Admiral's face was pale with shock. "What do you want, human?" "I want you to think very carefully about your next move," Jake replied. "You brought 12 ships to destroy one. Now you have 11 ships, and we are still here. Do you really want to find out what else our scrap pile can do?" Admiral Vexstar looked at the floating wreckage that used to be the Razor's Edge. 3,000. Imperial soldiers had died in seconds. The human ship that looked like floating garbage had weapons and technology that should not exist. "Sir," Commander Steve Parker whispered, "recommend we proceed with extreme caution. We clearly do not understand what we are facing." The Admiral stared at the human ship floating among the debris of his escort vessel. For the first time in his military career, he was afraid of an enemy that looked weaker than him. Admiral Vexstar paced back and forth on his bridge while his officers tried to understand what had just happened. The wreckage of the Razor's Edge still glowed in space, a reminder that the Empire had just lost a ship to an enemy they thought was harmless. "Science Officer Kekstar, I want answers," the Admiral demanded. "How did that scrap pile destroy our escort ship?" Science Officer Kekstar looked nervous as he read from his instruments. "Sir, the human weapons appear to use technology we have never seen before. Our shields registered no impact. The missiles seemed to pass through our defenses like they were not there." "That is impossible," Admiral Vexstar said. "Our shields have stopped every weapon for 300 years. Sir, apparently human weapons work differently than anything in our database." Commander Steve Parker stepped forward. "Admiral, I recommend we send 5 heavy cruisers to attack the human ship. Even with their strange weapons, they cannot fight 5 ships at once." Admiral Vexstar nodded. "Do it!" "Send the Thunderstrike, Iron Fist, Star Crusher, Battle Crown, and Deathwind. Tell their captains to use full shields and maximum firepower." Meanwhile, aboard the USS Defiance, the crew was preparing for the next attack. Chief Gunner Pete Collins worked at a weapons station that looked like it had been built from old car parts. Rusty metal panels covered advanced targeting systems that could track dozens of enemies at once. "Captain, I count 5 heavy cruisers moving toward us," Pete reported. "Each one is twice as big as the ship we just killed. Can we handle 5 at once?" Captain Jake Morrison asked. "Sir, our weapons were designed to fight entire fleets," Pete replied. 5 ships is just getting started." Lieutenant Grace Murphy sat at the tactical station, which looked like someone had tried to fix it with tape and wire. Her screen showed ship movements and attack patterns that the Empire had used for centuries. "Captain, they are using Formation Delta 7, Grace said. "It is a standard Imperial attack pattern. It will try to surround us and fire from all directions at once." "What do we know about Formation Delta 7? Jake asked. "It works great against normal enemies," Grace replied. "But we are not normal enemies. I have a plan that will turn their own formation against them." Dr. Helen Chang looked up from her science station. The station appeared to be held together with string and good wishes, but it was actually analyzing Empire technology. "In real time, Captain, their 5 ships are designed to work together," Helen explained. "They share shield power and coordinate their attacks. If we can disrupt their communication, they will not be able to fight as a team." Engineer Matt Thompson was managing power distribution from a console that looked like it belonged in a museum. Lights blinked in patterns that seemed random but actually showed the ship's true power levels. "Captain, we have full power available," Matt said. "Our engines are running at maximum efficiency. Our weapons have unlimited ammunition. Our shields can absorb more energy than those 5 ships can deliver." Jake nodded and sat down in his captain's chair. Through the main window, he could see the 5 Empire ships moving into attack position. They formed a perfect circle around the Defiance, each ship pointing its weapons at the human vessel. Communications Officer Danny Walsh, "Are you listening to their battle plans?" Jake asked. "Yes, sir," Danny replied. "They plan to fire all weapons at the same time. They think concentrated firepower will overwhelm our defenses." "What else are they saying?" "Captain Zexmar of the Thunderstrike thinks we got lucky with the first ship. Captain Lexville of the Iron Fist says our weapons must be short-range only. They all believe 5 ships firing together will end this fight quickly." Tony Rodriguez turned around from his weapons station. "Captain, should I target their engines like last time?" "No," Jake said. "This time, we show them something different. Target their weapon systems, but do not destroy the ships completely. I want survivors to tell their friends what they saw." "Understood, sir." Amy Cole checked her navigation display. "Captain, the Empire ships are in position. They will fire in 30 seconds. Grace. "Execute your plan," Jake ordered. "Lieutenant." Grace Murphy activated systems that looked broken, but worked perfectly. The USS Defiance suddenly split into multiple images on Empire sensors. To their instruments, it looked like the human ship had become 5 ships, each one moving in a different direction. On the Thunderstrike, Captain Zexmar stared at his display in confusion. "Weapons Officer, how many human ships do you see?" "Sensors show 5 targets, but visual contact shows only 1 ship. Which target do we shoot?" "I do not know, sir." The same confusion spread to all 5 Empire ships. Their perfect formation became chaos as each captain tried to decide which target was real. Some fired at sensor ghosts. Others held their fire, afraid of hitting empty space. The USS Defiance used this confusion to move through the circle of enemy ships. Like a dancer moving through standing statues, Tony Rodriguez fired weapons that adapted to each target. The Thunderstrike lost all its main guns in seconds. The Iron Fist found its missile tubes melting from the inside. The Star Crusher watched its energy cannons explode on their own weapon decks. But the human weapons did exactly what Jake had ordered. They destroyed weapon systems, but left the ships alive. 5 Empire heavy cruisers found themselves floating, helpless in space, unable to fight, but still able to watch. "Danny, open a channel to all Empire ships," Jake ordered. "Channel open, sir." Jake looked directly at the camera. "Empire commanders, you just learned something important. Your tactics work against enemies who fight like you do. Humans do. Not fight like anyone else. We do not follow your rules. We do not use your strategies. We create our own way of doing things." He stood up from his chair. "Right now, 5 of your best ships are floating dead in space. I could destroy them all in the next 10 seconds. But I am not going to do that. Instead, I want you to think about what you have seen today." Jake walked closer to the camera. "You brought 12 ships to destroy 1. Now 7 of your ships are dead or helpless, and our 1 ship is still here. Do you really want to continue this fight, or do you want to go home and think about what you learned?" On the Imperial flagship, Admiral Vexstar stared at the 5 helpless cruisers floating around the human ship. Each cruiser carried 5,000 soldiers. Each ship had cost more money than most planets made in a year. Now they were floating scrap metal, defeated by a ship that looked like it was built from garbage. Sir Commander Steve Parker said, "Quietly, perhaps we should reconsider our approach." Admiral Vexstar's hands shook with rage and fear. The humans had made him look like a fool. They had also shown him technology that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. For the first time in his career, he was facing an enemy that was genuinely more dangerous than his own forces. Admiral Vexstar stood in his command center, staring at the tactical display. 7 of his 12 ships were now dead or helpless. The 5 heavy cruisers floated like broken toys around the human vessel. The Razor's Edge was nothing but glowing debris. His perfect fleet was becoming a graveyard. "Admiral, what are your orders?" Commander Steve Parker asked. Vexstar did not answer right away. He was thinking about his long military career, 43 years of service, 200 battles, 67 worlds conquered, never defeated, never even seriously challenged, until today. "Sir, the remaining 5 ships are requesting orders," Commander Yexenal said. Tell them to maintain position, Vexstar replied. I need to understand. What we are fighting before I lose any more ships? On the bridge of the USS Defiance, Captain Jake Morrison was talking with his crew about their next move. The ship still looked like floating junk, but everyone now knew that looks could be deadly. Captain, the Empire fleet has stopped moving, Navigator Amy Cole reported. The 5 remaining ships are staying back. They seem afraid to attack. Good, Jake said. Fear makes people think instead of just shooting. Communications Officer Danny Walsh raised his hand. Captain, I am picking up lots of radio traffic between Empire ships. They are arguing about what to do next. What are they saying? Jake asked. Some captains want to retreat. Others want to call for more ships. Admiral Vexstar is demanding answers from his science officers. They are trying to figure out how our technology works. Chief Engineer Lisa Bennett looked up from her control station. Captain, should we show them more of what we can do? What did you have in mind? Asked. We could demonstrate our real speed, Lisa suggested. Right now they think we are slow because we have been moving carefully. They have no idea how fast this ship can actually go. Weapons Officer Tony Rodriguez turned around in his chair. We could show them our long-range weapons. So far we have only fought up close. They do not know we can hit targets from across the solar system. Dr. Helen Chang stood up from her science station. Captain, I have been studying their remaining ships. Each one has different weaknesses. We could disable all 5 in different ways to show them we understand their technology better than they do. Jake walked to the main window and looked out at the Empire ships. They hung in space like silver daggers, beautiful and deadly. But now, he knew they were also predictable. The Empire had grown strong by fighting enemies who used the same basic technology and tactics. They had never faced anything truly different. Grace, what do you think their next move will be? Jake asked Lieutenant Grace Murphy. Grace studied her tactical display. Captain, they have 3 choices. First, they could attack with all 5 ships at once. Second, they could retreat and call for reinforcements. Third, they could try to negotiate. Which one do you think they will choose? Admiral, Vexstar is proud, Grace said. Retreating would hurt his reputation, but attacking has not worked well so far. I think he will try to buy time while he figures out a new plan. As if Grace had read his mind, Admiral Vexstar made his decision. Open a channel to the human ship, he ordered. Channel open, sir, his communications officer replied. Admiral Vexstar appeared on the main screen of the USS Defiance. He looked older than he had an hour ago. His uniform was still perfect, but his eyes showed worry and confusion. Captain Morrison, the Admiral said, I propose a temporary ceasefire while we discuss terms. Jake sat down in his captain's chair. What terms do you want to discuss, Admiral? You have technology that interests the Empire? Vexstar replied. Perhaps we can reach an agreement that benefits both our peoples. What kind of agreement? Jake asked. Share your weapons technology with us, and we will leave your planet in peace. We will even make Earth a protected member of the Empire. Your people will have freedom and safety. Jake looked around at his crew. Several people were trying not to laugh. The Empire was offering to protect Earth from the Empire. That is very generous, Jake said with a straight face. But I have a different idea. What do you propose? Do you pack up your remaining ships and leave our solar system? You go back to your Empire and tell them that humans are not interested in being conquered. If you do that, we will let you leave alive. Admiral Vexstar's face turned dark with anger. You are in no position to make demands human. You have 1 ship. We have 5. Admiral, do you really want to test that math? Jake asked. Behind Jake, mechanic Rick Bailey was working on something that looked like a broken radio. But Rick's device was actually controlling systems throughout the ship. He pressed a few buttons and the USS Defiance began to change. The ship's hull started to glow with a soft blue light. The random-looking antenna array began to move, forming complex patterns. Energy readings that had been chaotic suddenly became perfectly organized. For the first time, the Empire could see hints of the ship's true power. Admiral Jake continued, You have seen what we can do when we are being careful and polite. You have seen us disable your ships without killing everyone. Aboard? Do you really want to see what happens when we stop being nice? On the Imperial flagship, alarms began to sound. Science Officer Kekstar stared at his instruments in shock. Admiral, the human ship's power readings just increased by a factor of 10, he reported. No, wait, factor of 20. The readings are still climbing. How is that possible? Vexstar demanded. Sir, I think they have been hiding their true capabilities, Kekstar said. What we have seen so far may be just a small part of what they can do. Jake stood up and walked closer to the camera. Admiral, I am going to give you 1 minute to decide. Take your ships and leave, or find out what a human warship can really do when it stops pretending to be scrap metal. The USS Defiance continued to glow brighter. Systems that had been hidden for 3 years were finally showing themselves. Weapon ports opened along the hull, revealing cannons that looked nothing like human technology. Shield generators created a protective field that sparkled with colors the Empire had never seen. Admiral Vexstar realized he was looking at technology that was not just different from Imperial science, but probably centuries ahead of it. The humans had not just built a warship. They had built something that made his entire fleet look primitive. 30 seconds, Admiral, Jake said calmly. Vexstar looked at his tactical display. 5 ships against 1, but the one ship had already destroyed or disabled 7 others without taking any damage. The one ship was showing power levels that his instruments could barely measure. The one ship was operated by creatures who fought like nothing in Imperial experience. For the first time in his career, Admiral Vexstar was facing an enemy he could not defeat. Admiral Vexstar stared at the glowing human ship on his main screen. 30 seconds had become 20 seconds. Then 10 seconds. The USS Defiance hung in space like a blue star, its true power finally visible to Empire sensors. Admiral, what? Are your orders? Commander Steve Parker asked. Vexstar's hands gripped the sides of his command chair. In 43 years of military service, he had never retreated from a battle. No. The Empire did not retreat. The Empire conquered or died trying. But the Empire had also never faced anything like this. 5 seconds, Admiral, Captain Jake Morrison said from the main screen. Admiral, please, Commander Yexenol whispered. We have families. Our crews have families. The countdown reached 0. Your time is up, Jake, said calmly. You made your choice, but Admiral Vexstar had not given any orders. He sat frozen in his chair, trapped between pride and survival. The silence on his bridge was complete, except for the quiet hum of ship systems and the sound of his own breathing. Jake Morrison stood up from his captain's chair and walked to the center of his bridge. Round him his crew worked at stations that still looked like they were built from spare parts and hope. Admiral, since you cannot decide, I will decide for you, Jake said. You wanted to see what our scrap ship could really do. Watch carefully. Jake nodded to his crew. Show them everything. Chief Engineer Lisa Bennett pressed a series of buttons on her control panel. The USS Defiance stopped glowing and seemed to fade from sight again, but this time the stealth technology was different. The ship did not just disappear from sensors. It split into dozens of images on Empire screens. Science Officer, how many human ships do you see now? Admiral Vexstar asked. Science Officer Kekstar looked at his instruments with confusion. Sir, sensors show 47 targets, but visual contact shows only empty space. 47 ships? Sir, either they have a large hidden fleet, or their technology can create perfect sensor illusions. On the USS Defiance, Weapons Officer Tony Rodriguez targeted all 5 Empire ships at the same time. His weapons systems had been designed by human engineers who understood that sometimes you need to fight multiple enemies at once. Firing, Tony announced. The weapons that left the Defiance were unlike anything the Empire had ever seen. Moved through space like living things, changing direction and speed as they flew. Some weapons split into smaller pieces that attacked different targets. Others combined together to become more powerful. The first weapon hit the Empire flagship, but instead of exploding, it attached itself to the hull and began to drain power from the ship's systems. Lights went out across the vessel. Engines stopped working. Life support systems switched to emergency power. The second weapon hit the star hammer and covered the ship in some kind of energy web. The crew found they could not move any of their controls. Weapons would not fire. Engines would not start. Even the communicator was dead. The third weapon struck the Void Reaper and began to disassemble the ship piece by piece. Hull plates fell away. Internal systems shut down in sequence. The crew watched their own ship take itself apart from the inside. The fourth and fifth weapons hit the remaining two ships and did something completely different. They created gravity fields that pulled the ships toward each other. Both vessels began spinning end over end, their crews thrown around like toys in a washing machine. In less than 1 minute, all 5 remaining Empire ships were helpless, not destroyed but completely unable to fight. The human weapons had been designed to disable rather than kill, showing a level of precision that terrified the Empire commanders. Admiral Jake said from the main screen, "Your entire fleet is now dead or helpless. 12 ships sent to conquer Earth. 12 ships defeated by 1 human vessel that you called scrap metal." Admiral Vexstar looked around his bridge. Emergency. Lighting cast red shadows on the walls. His crew sat at dead control stations. Outside the windows, his other ships tumbled through space like broken toys. "How?" the Admiral whispered. "You want to know how?" Jake asked. "I will tell you. You spent 300 years conquering enemies who fought like you do. As enemies who used similar technology and similar tactics, never learned to fight something truly different." Jake walked closer to the camera. "Humans do not fight like other species. We do not follow the rules everyone else follows. When we have a problem, we do not look for the proper solution. We look for the solution that works." He pointed at something. Off camera. "You saw a ship made from scrap metal and assumed we were poor and desperate. You were half right. We were desperate. But that desperation made us creative. We took your advanced technology, studied it, and built something better. Used your own arrogance against you," Jake continued. "We let you think we were weak so you would underestimate us. We made our ship look like junk so you would not see the real threat until it was too late." Admiral Vexstar found his voice. "What do you want from us?" "Nothing," Jake replied. "We want you to leave our solar system and never come back. We want you to tell your empire that Earth is not available for conquest. We want you to understand that humans do not surrender. And if we refuse..." Jake smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "Admiral, look around you. Look at your fleet. You already refused, and this is what happened. Do you really want to see what we do to enemies who keep fighting after we have beaten them?" Communications Officer Danny Walsh looked up from his station. "Captain, I am receiving messages from all the disabled Empire ships. Their crews are requesting permission to abandon ship. Tell them they can use their escape pods," Jake said. "We are not here to kill people. We are here to send a message." Admiral Vexstar stared at the human captain for a long moment. Then he turned to his communications officer. "Signal all ships. Prepare to abandon vessel. Set escape pods for automatic rescue beacon activation." "Sir," Commander Steve Parker said, "this will end your career. The Empire does not forgive defeat. The Empire also does not forgive commanders who get entire fleets destroyed for no reason," Vexstar replied. "At least this way, most of our people will survive to see their families again." 2 hours later, the escape pods from 12 Empire ships drifted through space, broadcasting rescue signals. The USS Defiance had used its tractors to collect the pods and arrange them in a safe area where Empire rescue ships could find them. Captain Jake Morrison stood on his bridge and looked out at the wreckage floating around his ship. 12 of the Empire's best vessels, reduced to scrap metal and escape pods. The message would be clear to anyone who found this place. "Danny, open a channel to Empire space," Jake ordered. "Channel open, sir?" "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth Defense Force," Jake said. "The Zephrian Empire sent 12 ships to conquer our world. We are sending back 12 clouds of debris and a simple message. Humanity is not for sale. Earth is not available for conquest. Find somewhere else to build your empire." Jake sat back down in his cracked leather chair. "Lisa, take us home." The USS Defiance, still looking like floating scrap metal held together with tape and wishful thinking, turned toward Earth and began the journey home. Behind it, the wreckage of an empire's pride drifted in the cold darkness of space, a monument to the danger of underestimating human determination.